question is about windmill energy, turbines, and bird flyways and what that means for bird conservation. And Audubon is pro-wind because it is a renewable, clean source of energy. And the issue is that windmills are sometimes sited in prime bird habitat, or birds will collide with the turbines and die. So they have to be sited properly, and that's why it's incumbent on the companies that build and site those to work with groups like Audubon to figure out where they should and should not go. They should stay away from places where birds congregate in large numbers, for example.
So is that easy to do? I mean, is it easy to identify those safe places?
It does. To identify them, it does take some monitoring, and those companies have an obligation to do some bird surveys before and after they set up those turbines, those wind farms, to see what kind of impact they're having on the birds. The question is there other regulations to require the wind turbine companies to do some of that monitoring? And I'm not up on my regulations for that, so I'm not 100% sure. I know it does occur out there.
We have a yes from the audience.
Yes, okay.
There are some.
Let me repeat what he said, though, first.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, that there are requirements from Fish and Wildlife Service that the companies have to show that they're not going to have an impact, and that's part of an environmental assessment process that lots of different types of companies have to go through before they plow up some land to do development. Now there's also all native species are protected by law, by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. So it's illegal to kill them without a permit, to own eggs or nests or even feathers of them under this law. So that's why Fish and Wildlife Service steps in, because they watch over our wildlife. Now, if a wind farm is already built and birds are being killed en masse, it's almost too late then. So that would be an issue. So there is recourse if there is a lot of damage. Now, to add to that, these days I think the technology is improving, and the number of bird deaths is probably not as significant as in the early versions of those turbines. I think a bigger issue really is about habitat loss, and in some of these areas where there's lots of good wind, there's also certain sensitive species like lesser prairie chickens that stay away from any kind of tall structure, whether it's a turbine or trees. And the bigger the turbine, the more distance they keep away from these things. So lesser prairie chickens are losing breeding ground when wind farms are built. And also add that that wind turbines are a problem for bats as well, and actually has to do with changes in air pressure and how that affects them. So bats may be even more of a concern than birds when it comes to turbines.
Okay. And your question?